So Antony received his PhD in classics from UCL in 2005. He has been a research and teaching fellow and visiting lecturer at KCL, UCL, and Queen Mary College, and he is currently an associate professor in classics in the Greek and Latin department at UCL. He's also a senior teaching fellow at the Advanced HE and an accredited learning technology professional in the UK and internationally. His interests include Greek epic, especially Homer, Greek education, scholarship in Byzantium, reception studies, especially Homer in film and documentary, teaching classics with immersive technologies, especially VR and AI, classics in the luxury retail sector, including consultancies of luxury companies such as Louis Vuitton. He is currently working on an edition of Eustathius's commentary on Homer's Odyssey Book One. He's also a member of Euroclassica and a member of the UCL Academic Board. For the last 14 years, he's the director of the Summer School in Homer at UCL, which takes place every year at the Department of Greek and Latin, and he has contributed to many UCL and KCL courses in classical studies. Recently, he's made the stream lead of virtual humanities for the new Center of Humanities at UCL. Thank you so much for joining us, Antony.
Thank you, Irene. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much for the invitation. Have you pressed the record button? Not, I
Yes.
don't. Oh, you have. Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Oh, yes, you have. Yes, of course you have. Very good. I am going. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very excited to talk about leadership today, and I'm going to share my, hopefully successfully, my presentation for everyone, and you can tell me whether you can see that. Uh,
Yes.
I'm going to make it bigger so that it covers everything, and then we can start. Yes? All good.
Yes.
You can see
All
it.
good.
Fantastic. All right, let's start. So as Irini has said, I am a Homerist. I've been working for UCL. I'm the Homerist of the department, and um, I also run the summer school in Homer. And one of the things that I am very interested in is how can we make Homer relevant to now, to modernity? How can we use the values and the teachings of Homer in order to make our lives more meaningful and in order to understand ourselves better. And that includes, of course, professional environments, not only ourselves as characters. I'm an absolute, I should say from the beginning as a disclaimer, I'm an absolute believer in Homer. I am a Homeraholic and I love Achilles. So this is a disclaimer. We can very well discuss why Achilles is the best hero ever, and we can of course have agree to disagree as well. I know all the views about Achilles, but I'll come back to that. The most essential thing that I'm talking about with my students as well, and we have a lot of discussions, is the idea of hero. Um, the idea of hero in Homer and the idea of hero nowadays. And it is my personal belief that this is different, that it differs. If you check a modern definition of a hero, from a dictionary, you can take any dictionary. I chose the Oxford English Dictionary. A hero is a person who is admired by many for his noble qualities or his bravery. We say, for example, you are my hero, or a chief male character in a story. If you check the definition of a leader, you've got one who guides others in action or opinion, a prominent or respected member of a particular community. I'm going to have the chat open actually because I want to see your comments as well. I'll try to do it in parallel, but if I forget any comments from the chat, I'll come back. Yeah, home is my Achilles heel for sure, and he's the number one. Achilles is the number one for sure. I will explain why. We get a lot of Homeric instances where the heroes explain what it means to be a hero, what they need to do. It's basically, in order to be a hero, you have to win glory for yourself. It's a society which is based on honor and glory, the Homeric society. And the reason for being a hero is that you want to become immortal. And in order to become immortal, you have to, perform these glorious deeds They shouldn't all be in battle. I mean, obviously in the Iliad they are in battle, but in the Odyssey they are not necessarily all of them in battle. And after you achieve these, you become the poet's theme for men of the future, as Helen says in Iliad Book 6. So you become immortal through art. The same thing happens with all the people who talk about heroism. Achilles is doing the same. He says, "Now let me win fine glory." Hector, the same. He argues that I will attack Achilles so that men to come shall know of it. So it is really very important for the hero what will happen late, the name, we call it in Greek, hysterophymia, the fame that the person will acquire for the years to come. And we are still here talking about Achilles and Hector and so on. We do know that there have been bards or singer of tales. And we have got evidence for this. We believe that we are talking about oral composition and that they were singing, those heroic deeds in the Eurovisions of time, if you want. In Delos, for example, where you have got bards coming together and not necessarily singing the whole of the Iliad, because it would take about 2-3 days to do that, but episodes from the Iliad, and competing for a reward. Or of course you could have the Anactoron, and you could have the Megaron, where all the aristocrats were sitting all around the big fire, and you had the bard singing about the wrath of Achilles. So this is a world of heroes, just like our world is a world of heroes, by the way. We have got our own sagas. We've got Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings and James Bond and all of that. It was exactly, I think, the same thing. These heroes have got certain kinds of values. So they have got excellence. They fight for excellence. They fight for honor. They fight for glory. They are governed by peer pressure, eidos. They are not perfect. They misjudge situations. They fail a lot of times, which is wonderful because this is life. Homer has constructed his heroes with the idea that they have an Achilles' heel and that they misjudge situations. And this is why Homer is the first tragic poet. He is actually giving birth to tragedy. I remind you that, conventionally speaking, Homer is 8th century BC, although not everyone agrees, but roughly, let's say, Greek tragedy is not born yet. But for sure, you can say that the Homeric heroes are very tragic, and we can talk about this. We can discuss about this if you want. Of course, the gods are playing a very important role. They interfere in human life, and there is a kind of balance between free will and fates, what is predestined. But in order to be a hero in the Homeric world, you have to have some prerequisites. You have to have prestigious lineage. Homer doesn't care that much for the common soldier. It's all about aristocrats and people who are linked with the gods. You have to have physical values. You are beautiful. You are swift-footed. You are strong. You have a sharp mind. You have rhetorical skills. You are cunning. You are rich. You are a leader. People follow you. And your purpose, as we said, is glory. So we have got a narrative which assumes a lot of previous knowledge. I'm sure you know the two mega themes of the Iliad and the Odyssey, war and journey. And we have got a lot of heroic values that are attached to the stories of those heroes. Now, coming to the actual big question of the talk. Which one is the perfect model? Who is the perfect Homeric hero and leader? I couldn't possibly in one talk analyze all of them, so I just chose three: Achilles, Odysseus, and Hector. And I'll try to convince you that Achilles is the best, but you don't have to take that view. So if we start with Achilles, who is my favorite, his motto, Achilles is a perfectionist. He is a hero who is born from a sea goddess, and his psyche is like the sea. So one book we see him playing, being a singer and playing the lyre to Patroclus, and welcoming the embassy. And a few books later, he kills 100 Trojans. So, it's this kind of emotional mentality that he has, that it is exactly like the sea is. He's a perfectionist. His motto is always to excel and be the best of all others. We get to know that this is Pileus is his father's advice for when he goes to war. Um, he is beautiful. He is a politician. Has got all the physical qualities of a warrior. He is a Superman, an ancient Superman, if you want. He has got special weapons. He has got a special shield. He has got a spear that he can only lift up. He has got immortal horses who talk, and so on and so forth. He has got emotional intelligence, and you can find the whole array of emotions in his psyche, from pride to honor to wrath to separation to grief to guilt to regret, to failure, to fear. I could talk endless about Achilles. And at the same time, he is the lonely hero. There are a lot of people who talk about the lonely cowboy of the Iliad. He is someone who gets lonely at the top. The leader who is lonely at the top, and he is there to decide and take all the impossible decisions. He's a tragic hero who has to deal with impossible situations like the quarrel with Agamemnon or the death of Patroclus. And at the same time, he's a very individualistic hero, because individualism in Homer is fine. In Homer, a hero can do things for themselves. And that's absolutely fine. I know it's not fine for us because we are influenced by other things. We want the hero to be the person for the community, or the person who sacrifices for the others, or the person who is a patriot, or whatever. But that's not Achilles, and that's not Homer. That's not what Homer thinks about Achilles. Achilles is a person who is there to do things for himself, to glorify his name, to become immortal, and he's still a hero for that. Um, so this is, I believe, one, if you want, model of heroism, which existed in Homeric times, and it was absolutely fine because he is, after all, also the main character of the Iliad. So personal glory versus common interest. He is someone with negotiation and diplomacy. We can see that in the embassy, but he's also someone who tells the truth and looks at you in the eyes. He says, I hate the man who hides one thing in his heart and speaks forth another. And he says this to Odysseus, obviously. We all know why, because Odysseus is exactly that man. And we see the many different faces of Achilles: the friend, the brother, the lover, the animalistic killing machine, the philosopher, the human. I just love how he's able to be all those things, and how we can explore human psyche through this character. He has also got the ability to change and learn. If you compare Achilles of book 1 to Achilles in book 24, he has learned a lot of things, and obviously he is a very changed person. Um, Now, let's move to someone who's the opposite almost of Achilles, the hero of the community, someone who's very close to our heroic ideals, someone who sacrifices for their country, who is a patriot, who respects and loves his wife and his children. He wants to defend his city. And this is, of course, Hector, Hector of the Shining Helmet. His motto is, one thing is the best, to fight for one's country. This is what he says. And he's a hero who functions in relation to other heroes, in relation to, or within the peer pressures of the other heroes. We can see that when he's thinking about fighting Achilles, and he says, maybe I should actually, just surrender. But then he says, or maybe not, or maybe I should save myself, go back to Troy. But he says, I can't do that because I feel eidos. I feel shame before the Trojans and the Trojan women. Because they're going to say, of course, Hector is the best warrior. If he doesn't fight the Trojans, who will? So someone who works in this kind of way, and also in terms of emotionality, because emotions are very important in Homer, someone who can actually feel, if you want, fear and still be a hero. So Hector can be a hero and feel fear. We can see that when he shivers in front of Achilles when he attacks him, in the famous duel between Hector and Achilles. The shivers took hold of Hector when he saw him and he could no longer stand his ground, and he starts running there. This is a very controversial passage because some people say, oh, Hector is not a hero because he's a coward, because he starts running. But I totally disagree. I think this is very human. In times of war, when you face death, Homer presents, the humanity of the character, the fear that the face of war can put on you. Third model is Odysseus, the Greek James Bond. That's what I call Odysseus. A very intelligent man. He has been in the new translation by Emily Wilson. He is the complicated man for Polytropos, much enduring, godlike, cunning, all of those epithets. He is the man who demonstrates political and military leadership with intelligence. He is the winner. He always wants to win. And he's also the Mission Impossible man. He's always sent to spy for the Trojans, for example, in Iliad Book 10, when he captures Dolon and he's extracting information from him about what the Trojans are going to do, and then kills him, of course. He is the problem-solving hero. We see that in the episodes of the Cyclops and Circe and the Sirens. He is the man of many masks. He lies to everyone about his identity, especially after the episode, the fiasco with the Cyclops, where he revealed his true identity, and because of that, he's cursed. And also, after that, he learns from that. He's the kind of leader who learns from his mistakes. After the episode of the Cyclops, he is changing his identity, and he never says he's Odysseus. He always lies about who he is, and he lies to everyone, like to his wife, to Telemachus, to people who ask him to, you name it, Eurycleia, everyone. So there are so many different kinds of identities that he takes. He's a nobody, he's a beggar, he's a Cretan man, he's an Italian man, you name it. And he combines all these in order to achieve his purpose, his mission, if you want. He is supported by the goddess of wisdom, Athena. So obviously, as a very fitting goddess for such a cunning persona. He's resisting temptation of knowledge and immortality. At the same time, he has been promoted as the eternal explorer. He's always curious. We can see that in many episodes. He wants to acquire knowledge about things. He's a diplomatic genius, and Irene, you love that. This is the episode with Nausicaa where he really masters the art of supplication. When he talks to Nausicaa, one example is that he starts with, "Are you a goddess?" And you know that, of course, after that, nothing can go wrong for Odysseus. So obviously he knows what he's talking about, and it's I just find so amazing that Odysseus, at this point, he has nothing, not even clothes. He's a zero. He's the zero man. He lost everything, and he is able from this 0 point with Nausicaa. When Nausicaa found him, he only has some leaves in front of his genitalia. He's naked, as when he came from the sea. He lost his weapons, his companions, his clothes, everything. But he's able, through his mind, to go from zero towards the end of the Odyssey to reclaim his kingdom, to win back his throne, to win back his wife, to win back everything, his wealth and so on, to kill the suitors. And so he's this kind of man, a dangerous man, a very clever man, a complicated man who stops at nothing to achieve his goals, this kind of leader. And of course, he is patient when he goes back to Ithaca. He doesn't run to Penelope to reveal who he is, and he knows the power of silence. He sustains quite a lot of abuse by the suitors, but he is looking for the right moment to hit, and that's what he achieves. I have included a couple of female leaders and heroines as well. Do women lead in Homer? I should say that I don't believe that women are actually the focus of Homer, as in they are not the topic of the Iliad or of the Odyssey, but I strongly believe that Homer analyzes in a very detailed way his female characters, not all of them, and he doesn't analyze all male characters either. But when he focuses on the main female characters like Helen or Andromache or Penelope, I do believe that they are not, as some people have suggested, passive. I believe they are very active agents, and they carry a lot of strength and power in many different aspects. Perhaps in different aspects than men, but nevertheless, they dominate, for example, the lamentation scene. That's not to say that you don't have men lamenting. You do have Achilles lamenting, but nevertheless, the lamentation area is something that women dominate, and other things. They other areas as well, as you shall see. So if you start with the femme fatale, Helen, she is the weaver of tales. She's another Homer. She's presented as another Homer in book 3. As she is visited by Iris, she was weaving a great web, a red folding robe, and working in the numerous struggles of Trojans, breakers of horses, and bronze armored Achaeans, struggles that they endured for her sake at the hands of the war god. It's a very interesting, representation of a dangerous woman, dangerously beautiful woman. There's also another episode later on where the elders are looking at Helen and they're like, oh, now we understand why everyone is getting killed for that woman. But actually, let her go. Let her go back to her country. We don't want this kind of catastrophe. So this is how Homer represents Helen. Sometimes it's a very sympathetic picture, actually, the Homeric picture of Helen. Priam doesn't blame her for the war. They all blame the gods. It's the gods' fault. It's Aphrodite's fault. There's shift of responsibility there. Then you have got Andromache, totally opposite, and that is absolutely fine. Andromache, the emotional wife and general, and I call her, it's not me actually that I call her a general, it's Alexander Pope when he translated, the famous translation by Alexander Pope, when he translated the Iliad. The argument is that she actually, in a very convincing way and with very convincing arguments, is trying to convince and to persuade Hector to stay within Troy. And if Hector had followed her advice, of course, he would be alive. But Hector, I have to say, it's not that he doesn't love her, he adores her, but there's something more important for Hector, which is duty, the duty to his country. So he sees his duty as something more important. But have a look at what Andromache says in a very strategic kind of way. Stay here on the rampart, in book 6. Draw your people up by the fig tree, there where the city is openest to attack, and where the wall may be mounted. 3 times their bravest came that way and fought there to storm it. And she continues with, with discussing the very specifics of how to fight the Greeks. I don't think that's passive. I think this is very active, and it perhaps Hector doesn't take the advice, but that's another discussion. It's not that he doesn't take the advice because Andromache is silenced or because Andromache minds her own business. He does, of course, say something like that when he tries to, I wouldn't say dismiss her, but he tries to evade. But if you think about Hector's position, it's really difficult, and he does love her. He loves her more than everyone. He says that. And he's like, I have to fight I have to fight Achilles and I'll probably die. But I do that because there's no one else to do that. And I don't want to see you as a slave. So the prudent, the emotional Andromache, we see her emotionality when, for example, she feigns with the killing of Hector and so on, but also a very clever woman who plays general. Not to mention, of course, Penelope. I've seen a lot of people saying that Penelope is passive, and that she's silenced. Not to my eyes. Homer uses periphron as an epithet for Penelope, and it's the same kind of epithet that he uses for Odysseus as well. Prudent Penelope, prudent Odysseus. This is a woman who is absolutely devoted to Odysseus, and there's nothing wrong about that, by the way. This is what happens when you love someone. Some people say, oh yeah, but why did she wait for 20 years? Well, that's what you do if you love someone. Sorry if people haven't experienced this, but That's called devotion and love. So she is the devoted wife, she is the faithful wife, but at the same time, she doesn't take Odysseus for granted. And when he comes back, she doesn't take for granted that this is Odysseus. So she's very careful. She puts him to the test. Telemachus is very upset, his son. Like, what are you doing? Why are you not kissing dad? And she's like, the heart in my chest is astounded. I'm not able to speak to him at all, or question him, or look him straight in the face. If it's true that he is Odysseus, we two will surely recognize each other in an even better way, for we have signs concealed from others, once just we two know. What a clever approach, and what a clever woman to actually put him to the test. I'm sure that there have been a lot of people who try to convince her that they were Odysseus or that they know about Odysseus. She mentions this a couple of times in the epic as well. So it's absolutely normal that she is skeptical about this, and Odysseus actually doesn't protest about this. He actually likes it. He likes the fact that, she didn't immediately recognize him and run and kiss him. Of course, after she puts him to the test, and Odysseus proves with the famous quiz about their bed, which is built on a tree, etc., etc. And Odysseus proves that he knows something that only those two know. Then you can see the emotionality of Penelope. She hugs him, she faints in his arms, and she shows how much she loves him. So these are three examples, if you want, of, I would say, it's not the same kind of male leadership that we have seen in war, as in, we take decisions that can lead to, people to fight or people to start a war. But at the same time, it is leadership in the domain of emotionality, in the domain of relationships, in the domain of love, in the domain of affection. And these are important topics for Homer. Homer is not only about war and the journey of return. It is basically about those. It's basically about the wrath of Achilles and war and all of that. But there are a million topics that Homer wants to explore when we read the Iliad and the Odyssey. He explores the human condition, and no matter male or female, he explores what it means to be human, what it means to feel separation, what it means to feel all those different kinds of emotions that both men and women feel. What is our attitude to death? How do we lead when we are under huge pressure, when we are under failure? Achilles makes such a big mistake to send Patroclus to his own death. Misjudgment, total misjudgment. And when he does that, of course he regrets it, but he can't do anything about this. Patroclus is dead. He's killed. And how many times we have this? How many times you make a decision, it's wrong, and then you can't fix it. And you're like, oh my God, I just wish I could go back, but you can't go back. And this is the tragedy of human psyche. This is the tragedy of human life. And Achilles shows this. After the death of Patroclus, there's only one way. He has to kill Hector. There's nothing in his mind, there's nothing else. Even if this means he will die himself. Because we know that, because Thetis says that if you kill Hector, you will die as well, and you will never return home. But that's fine, because he has to pay the price, of this failure. So it's the first time perhaps there where, the Greeks start thinking about what it means, A, to misjudge situations and to fail and to take the price of that, and B, to strive for knowledge, to strive for knowing more, like Odysseus does, and again, uh, pay the price for this, and that will eventually lead also to Oedipus and all the other stories that we have got in Greek tragedy. So one of the most, and I really stress this to my students, because our world, business, universities, everyone is fighting so much for success. And everyone is like, as if in life there is no failure, there's only success. And it really makes me angry because if you do that, when there is actually failure, when young people do face failure, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to react. They don't have the persistence. They don't have the patience. They don't have, they're not equipped to deal with failure. And Homer does this in the best possible way because almost all his heroes fail. Achilles fails in the end. The quarrel of Agamemnon, ends up in a disaster because he loses the only person that he actually loves, or the person that he loves most. Hector fails to protect his family. His family is totally deconstructed, and he gets killed. And Andromache, as we know, will become a slave, and his son will be killed as well. And in a way, Odysseus manages to succeed. But what kind of success is this? It's not like Aeneas that he comes back with his companions. All his companions are dead. He's a very changed man. And although the Homeric Odyssey, in a way, has got a Hollywood style happy ending, we do know that Odysseus is going to live again. And, Tiresias tells him, it's not the end when you go to Ithaca. You're going to live again. And, there is a wider circle of and a wider circle of possibilities of what happened with his end. So perhaps one of the most important things that the heroes of Homer have got an Achilles heel. They can fail and they can still be heroes. It doesn't mean because they fail, they are not heroes. This is the most important thing, I think. Odysseus, as I say, he fails his companions in the Cyclops episode. He fails to navigate successfully through difficulties. He fails to return with his companions. He returns alone. Also, those heroes are allowed to feel. The Homeric heroes are allowed to feel. There is no, men don't cry. Yes, they cry. I mean, Achilles cries throughout the Iliad so many times. I gave you some examples, but if you read the Iliad, he always cries. And this is not sulking, as some people say. He cries because he is emotional, because he's a human being, and men can cry as well because they are human beings. And he's bent, under the difficult situation. The same with Odysseus. Odysseus cries his eyes out. He cries when he hears the song about the Trojan War. He cries with Calypso because he wants to leave. He cries with his dog when Argos, when the dog recognizes him. So many instances in Homer where it is suggested that you can be human, you can be a hero, you can be as masculine as Achilles, and yet you can cry. And I find this amazing. Again, a very good didaggma for us. In our society where everyone has to be successful, everyone has to be happy, everyone has to be. No, we are humans. We can cry, and that's absolutely fine. So if you compare anyway the ancient Greek heroes to modern superheroes, you can compare Achilles to Superman, you can compare Odysseus to Batman, and so on and so forth. It's a very useful exercise, and you will find a lot of similarities. So take Achilles and Superman. They have superpowers. They have divine lineage. They are both beautiful and masculine and strong. They have the ability to change politics. They use violence. They are lonely characters. They have an invulnerable. They're invulnerable, but they have a weak point. Complicated love stories. Multiplicity of identities, with Odysseus and Batman, and all of that. So there are so many similarities because the human psyche has not changed. The human psyche and the human condition is the same, and they projected those aspects of the human psyche on their heroes, and we do the same nowadays on our heroes and on our heroic universes. So it's not at all difficult to see that the modern heroes are an actual amalgamation of the characteristics of ancient heroes, and they do share those characteristics. They share the physicality, they share the emotionality, and they share the intellectuality. And it's absolutely amazing, I think, In whatever kind of business, environment you talk about Homer, people might think, oh, what does, someone who lived 2,800 years ago, what can they tell us about business? They can tell us so many things about business. They can tell us so many things about success and failure, so many things about how to lead successfully, how to be a team, what to do with failure, what to do with managing expectations, how to be a strong leader, when to be a strong and when to be a soft leader. All of those different kinds of things, you find them in the ocean of the Iliad and the Odyssey. And this is I think, my best sort of argument when people are asking, but why should we read Homer? You shouldn't read Homer because it is you approach this as a story of the past. Homer is not past. Homer is present. It's now. These things that are happening in Homer are happening now. The war that is happening in Homer is happening now. The separation that Andromache feels as a wife is happening now. It has never stopped. This is why it's classics. This is why it's diachronic. So there are a lot of lessons to be learned, not only for leaders, but also for everyone who wants to explore the human psyche and the human condition and the human emotions and ideas, and who wants to improve themselves. There's no doubt in my mind that when you read Homer, you become a better person. And a better human. I'll stop here so that I can take questions. But before I stop, I want to tell you that we have got the summer school in Homer for the 14th year happening this year at the end of July. We're going to talk about all those things in various classes: ancient philosophy and Homer, comparative literature, religions, Homeric papyri. We have the language, of course. It's the most beautiful Greek you can get. So a Greek of all levels, Hittite, Homer from translation, you name it. So you are more than welcome to email me, a.makrinos@ucl.ac.uk. I'll put it on the chat as well. And it's hybrid, so you can attend it either online or on site. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much. That was brilliant, so engaging and interesting. I'm going to stop the recording now so that we can have a conversation.
Absolutely.
Mm.